as many of you know, I'm Parmar Phillips. I'm the founder of Poppy's Tutoring and a board director at the Tutors Association. And I'd say most of my work is heavily revolving around our SEND learners, so neurodiversity, lots of confidence building. And just a little bit of a personal note, as a huge part of why I do this for our SEN learners and why I care so much, just from personal experience, I've seen how quickly confidence can drop when we have an SEN learner feeling overwhelmed, and the chaos in the family that can cause and the ripple effects, and how much that responsibility can actually be alleviated. For us, we can be the educators and parents can be the parents, which is a lovely responsibility that we have. But like Jane pointed out, that's something we need to be refreshed on because it is a big role for us. So a huge part of what I say and do regularly is that we need to build confidence before progress. Confidence comes before progress. If I could have that ingrained in my brain, that is just something I come back to all the time. We build confidence first. So I'll just go to the next slide. This is, I'd suppose, if we were to take anything away, and whilst our brains are fresh, I always just start here, that neurodiversity, for our SEN learners, neurodiversity is a strength, it's not a barrier. Our role is never to, like, quote unquote, fix the child. The goal is to adapt the environment. We can adapt the environment. We have that ability to do that. We can't change a child. That's something we can't do, but we can adapt and enhance. So roughly 1 in 5 people are neurodivergent in some way. We might even notice in ourselves that we may have things that we would say are somewhere within the spectrum, whether that's dyslexia, autism, ADHD, dyspraxia, or any other learning difficulties. So 1 in 5, that means some of us on this call right now, we know that we are SEN learners. We have a different way of seeing the world. And in the UK, it's about 20% of pupils that are on the SEND register right now. So that makes sense, 1 in 5. So often learners are made to feel that they're the problem, when actually it's the system that's not built around them. So as tutors, we can help and we can build that up. Now, these are just what I would say are a few tips, if I could give any tips for understanding. When you have a parent that comes to you and will say, well, I think it's definitely dyslexia. I think, oh yeah, they're definitely autistic. We want to avoid labeling. It's just something that just causes a barrier for a child, rather than saying, yes, absolutely. Unless there's like an actual diagnosis. And even when there's a diagnosis, avoiding labeling is a really useful thing. It's really easy to just say, oh yeah, these are autistic traits, or yeah, these are dyslexic traits. But we just want to focus on their strengths, to say, yeah, we acknowledge that you have dyslexia, but instead to highlight, oh, you really understand, I put here character, empathy, or you understand why that person's feeling nervous because they can relate themselves, not just to being, oh, you're dyslexic, you've made a spelling mistake. That isn't what we want to ever do. So a really big tip to avoid just using a label and using that as a justification for something. And then using person first language when we're talking about the child to the family, or when we're talking about just our dyslexic learners in general, not just to say, oh, I had a dyslexic learner, I had an autistic learner, they're doing well. To say that this is them, this is who they are doing well. You wouldn't want someone just saying that woman did well. You would want them to say, oh, Poppy did well, or Flo did well, or Sid did a great job. And don't be afraid just to ask the child like what their preference is. Quite often my boys who I teach who have dyslexic traits, they prefer blue overlays, their eye tracking, that's just the overlay they prefer. But I'll just ask, because if I just bring blue and purple overlays and a student works better with orange overlays or green overlays, just ask, don't just presume. Always ask, and just see how they're feeling. I think for SEN learners, asking if they just need a little bit of quiet moment, if they are perhaps not giving you their full attention, just looking around the room or on Zoom, just looking down, and you're like, oh, come on, we want to be engaged, rather than just saying like, oh, come on, we need focus. Just ask them like, okay, do you need a movement break? Do we need a little bit of quiet? How is our brain feeling? Rather than just saying you need to do something else, just ask how they're feeling. So that would be just a few little tips for that one. Now, with confidence building, as you probably all know, this is, and what I said earlier is the biggest message I want all of you lovely people to leave today, is that confidence comes before progress. Full stop. I haven't used any full stops there, but full stop. That is it. Confidence is never just a bonus. This isn't just a, oh, you passed your GCSEs and you got a little bit more confidence. Nope, it's definitely the gateway to progress. And we want to like really celebrate those efforts behind it. They may just pass their GCSE, it's exam season right now. That doesn't matter. Their effort is what we want to celebrate. I'm not sure about you. I'm not sure if we have the raise hand feature, but if we were to raise our hands, how many children do you tutor, or do you hear that parents will just say they're behind, or they're not where they need to be, or those kind of students? Yeah, I would say everyone, yeah, absolutely. But a whole array. Yeah. So this is, you're not alone. If you suddenly have a parent come to you and they're like, my child is, say they're in primary, they're behind in their reading level, or they're only getting a level 2 in their English right now in GCSE or in their maths. That child is in the majority of our SEN learners. So their efforts that they're putting in, it's huge. They're putting so much more effort than a child that it comes naturally. I am terrible at running, but we're part of a running group, and the ones that can run really easily don't even break a sweat. I know that afterwards, when someone's like, great job, I really appreciate it, I'm like, thank you. I almost collapsed doing a 10K, but that effort is something that I celebrate within myself. We should do the same with our children. We should be like, yeah, you've done a great job, because the child that hears you're behind so many times will start to believe it. They'll lose their confidence. They'll think, oh, yeah, I am behind. We don't want that. We want them to have confidence, to keep moving forward and keep running, keep putting one foot in front of the other. So small wins matter. And these are just some tips if you want to jot notes down. I think there'll be a recording if you want to take a picture, but tips are definitely the small praises. So little bits to say that, oh, you spelled the word because right. They might have a little way of remembering it. I put that in there because a little boy remembers the big elephants can't always use small exits, and his sister uses something else, but he feels great when he gets it right, because previously that was one word that he would avoid even trying to write. He'd write the letter B, start to rub it out, but now he can spell it, which is great. And achievable goals. Spelling the word because might seem like a really small goal, but for him it was really big. Setting achievable goals, not thinking, oh, we're at level 2, we can definitely sit the higher paper in maths, we can definitely get a level 8. Don't want to set unrealistic expectations on them. To think, actually, we want to improve in our ratios. Actually, we want to do, we want to be able to read a page all on our own, and just break it into steps to then break it down. Lots of positive language. As if you follow me on any social media, I try to always use positive language, always be uplifting and positive, because even when we're tired, we're tutors, we are going to be drained, we're tired, we talk all the time. It can be really easy to start to focus on ourselves because we're tired, we've had a difficult day, other things going on. A child doesn't know that and can't process their emotions like we can. We can regulate our emotions as adults, but for SEN learners, that is something that they haven't learnt about the world yet, these bigger problems. So they need us to have positive language and have that enthusiasm. So it's a nice little reminder that if we're able to, even when we're tired, to get going, to use lots of positive language. And then keep telling each other these amazing stories, like my little boy who can spell because then you can then say, oh, I've got a child that can't spell the word because, but I remember Poppy saying that she had the same problem, or so on and so forth, to use other experiences. And I know they've inspired me, that I have some amazing people who inspire me. So yeah, that's a little bit of the confidence building side of things. I wondered, before we do looking at inclusive practice doesn't have to be complicated, but when we say inclusive, how do I word this? What does it mean to you guys? Like, is there a term that you would use for inclusive practice instead of the word inclusive, or do you guys use inclusive practice? What terms do you use for this? I don't worry if you don't know, because that's literally why I'm here. Inclusive, we might just think of just everybody together, so we include people. However, I spoke to our local MP recently, and they were saying they don't like the term inclusion and inclusive, because oh yes, accessibility, perfect, yeah, brilliant. I think accessibility is a really lovely one. Yeah, I don't really even think about it till recently. I thought inclusive, make it accessible. Yeah, that's a great one, Megan. She said to me that inclusion in her mind and in teaching staffs connects with exclusion. And I said, oh, in my mind, that's different. Like, inclusion is to include everyone. I never even thought about the terminology. So I made this slide before I spoke to her yesterday. I maybe would change it to kind of your terminologies, like accessibility, making sure everybody is together. So it's like togetherness. It's just a little thing I've just learnt as well. So instead of inclusion, maybe inclusive is okay, but togetherness is better. So lots of visual helps. Welcome to all. I love that one. Okay, welcome to all. I'll change that on my slide. Welcome to all accessible.
But doesn't the opposite still apply to all of the other examples though as well? Because as in together for and togetherness, lovely, but the opposites of those still imply not together and no.
I agree. So our local MP, when I was meeting with her, this is genuinely. Oh yes, please, Danielle. Danny. Hello, Danny. Sorry. Hello.
Hi. I think it's because of the way the word inclusion is used in mainstream schools is the problem, is that they call things and label things inclusion when it's actually exclusion. And so there's that negative connotation with that word now because it's not being used correctly where they in the setting they've been in there before.
Yeah, so that was just something I've learned recently. So I would change my slide. That's what I realized as soon as it popped up. Instead of inclusion, because of what Danny's pointed out, and my local MP, maybe, yeah, togetherness. And instead of thinking about the opposite, the negative connotations with inclusion that we don't experience because we are maybe outside of the mainstream schooling practice every day, or some of us are still teaching in them. I would just adjust that to like, yeah, togetherness practice, or mainly the idea of that we want everybody to feel included. So that's why we use the word inclusion, but like Danny pointed out, and my MP, I've just, anyway, that's a side point, I'll just change that to togetherness. Visuals help. Checklists, I guess, inclusion room. Sorry, I will check the chat as well. I'm like, brilliant. I think all of this conversation is really useful for us to then think, actually, I want to be having different terminologies, or just so we know when we speak to parents, especially parents who maybe work at schools, that our main thing is making sure, not in just when we talk about equality, you might remember that illustration of instead of people just having the same box to see a view, if somebody's a lot shorter, they need like 3 boxes to see the same view. We call that like not just equality but equity, that somebody's able to get to the same destination, but that might mean they have different strategies than another person. So for our SEN students, visual support really helps, checklists help, chunking helps, predictability. But I was reading the cognitive load theory that probably many of you know. If you don't, I really recommend just reading the cognitive load theory. It just tells us that when working memory becomes overload, just learning stops, that when we feel overloaded, learning stops. We may even realize that as adults, when we feel a bit overwhelmed, our brain just switches off. It's like, no, I can't even focus on that right now. And that's why chunking is really useful. 4 things. So it's not making work easier, it's just making it more accessible. So we've had lots of accessibility put onto the chat. So accessibility practice is what we will say. So if I hand a student a full page of work, they'll just feel panic. But if I say, let's find 3 powerful words first, it feels manageable. We're chunking it down, we're making sure we're making it manageable, not taking it as in something I personally as tutor can do. It's what they as child can do. And that's where we want to reach them. We want to think, okay, let's find 3 powerful words, or around the room, if we're teaching in person, let's hide different parts of an equation and find them and make it work and bring it together, rather than here is a worksheet, complete 10 scary looking questions. Their brain's going to switch off. Neurotypical learners, absolutely fine. They'll think, okay, I'll take it one by one. SEN learners, they will feel overwhelmed, they will switch off, they will find it too much. But break it down, hide it around the room, get other visual supports or sensory breaks involved. They'll be able to do it, which is fantastic. So those are just some tips there, mind mapping, checklists, all of those lovely things to include. I just wondered if anyone has a favourite that they use that's there, like mind maps, checklists, flashcards, anything you guys just enjoy doing online or in person that you can happily share with the class. Yeah, okay, that's a really good point, person. So if say you have and oh, I should ask, is that in person or online? Just because they're two separate, I'll talk about both. Whilst you're writing, I'll talk about online and then we'll go in person. Say if it's online and there you can see the worksheet, say with a screen sharing, I would absolutely just take the first one. You can like screen snip or take the first one and put it onto the whiteboard and break it down and colour different parts in. So say if it's rearranging, say if it's maths and you're rearranging the subject for X, I would highlight the different colours with the Y, X, a number like 4, and then move it around with the colours. That's a really useful one using the whiteboard. Pretty much the same if it's in person. In person, I will usually take a massive piece of paper. I'll try and find it in my room somewhere. Oh, sorry, I'm literally just here. So I use this massive piece of paper regularly, and we'll split up on that massive piece of paper the homework, and each page can be a different question. So they still complete the questions, but not on a worksheet, in a way that they can, in their mind, separate it, and it feels that they have a lot more space physically and in their mind to break it down. Is that page large or a teacher small? that is flip chart pad large. And for SEN engagement, no separation or difference needed. Yes, I agree with Mary Ann. Oh, thank you, Preston. I hope that helps a little bit with the worksheets. It's tricky when you're given, oh, here is a homework, complete these 20 questions. The child's overwhelmed. You might think, oh, how am I going to do it? But just taking it down and breaking it and almost getting them to turn that over. If you can think about the first 2 questions, put that worksheet down, it's going to stress them out, but then they have the answers and they can just pop them in. Brilliant. Sorry, that's one other little side note. Brilliant. So those are some tips, lots of visual aids, lots of mind maps. I know Sarah just put down that mind maps are great. Love a mind map. And then sensory breaks are great. Parents are a little bit dubious sometimes because they think, I'm paying you for an hour. Why are you going for a walk? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Completely understand. Sensory breaks are important for SEN learners. If you're working, say, with a contract with a school, schools don't mind too much. They understand. We do lots of nature walks if we're doing intervention at schools. Parents that are paying privately, I will always say it really delicately. Or if they're saying, you know, we want an hour or 45 minutes, I'll say I'm going to stay for an hour and 15. And within that, having a 10-minute little walk, break, play a game of catch, but include learning still in it. It might not be what you're actually on, but say you're throwing a ball, you can be doing your times tables like 2, 4, 6, 8. Sometimes they can become really competitive, so you have to be on guard, but you can start throwing a ball, doing those kind of things in the sensory breaks, still the brain active, but on a different topic. So that's just a tip when I've had parents to kind of gently say we need to do sensory breaks. Yeah, and just the other ones as well, just things we've kind of spoken about already. With the chunking information or fidget tools, do you guys ever use fidget tools yourself, or have you used them for children? Or fidget tools, these can be things you squish like stress balls, or yeah, Marianne. Myself, I am a neurotypical learner. However, I find I find my little stress axolotls. Really helpful sometimes, just when I'm overwhelmed or thinking. Yeah, there you go. There you go. You're like, I have your Nido, like I have it, because you suddenly think, oh, actually, it's quite a nice way to learn. So don't be afraid to bring them out. Recommend to parents, find them on Amazon, because they really are useful. So fidget tools, game changers. And then yeah, lots of alternative ways for teaching rather than just writing. I voice note quite often with for parents that are happy to. We have like a little group chat on WhatsApp, and instead with their homework, if they aren't comfortable writing a paragraph or their homework, they will voice note me exactly what they want to do. And then the next lesson, I'll keep that voice note transcript and I'll say, okay, let's put this into writing. Let's write this up, because they're happy speaking it aloud. Sorry, I know you just asked a question. I wanted to quickly show you, Danny, though. This is my one. I'm not sure if this is the kind of... Oh, no, he's gone. Oh, no. I think I must give him someone. The squishy ones, I'll send you a link on Amazon if you want a different feeling one. But all of these things are important. But I would say that with all of those things, with sensory breaks, fidget tools, asking them to buy different things, you need to just have a relationship with the families. The families are not difficult, they're just sometimes exhausted. So when they're wanting relief from their SEN responsibilities, they aren't professionals, they are not tutors, they're not teachers, so it can be overwhelm for them, and then that comes out as frustration. So even at first, if a parent of a child with SEND maybe has spent years trying to get an EHCP, has spent ages battling school, many arrive to us feeling unheard and might think that we don't get it. So just be like building up that trust first, spending time. It may be one or two families just want to have a few phone calls, want to meet on Zoom, meet in person first, but that's really worth it. That time and energy beforehand, building trust, it lasts for ages. Families that I end up meeting for a coffee 15 minutes before actually starting tutoring their child, spending time speaking with them, it just really helps. It just really helps them to build trust in you and understand that you genuinely care about their most precious thing in the world, their child. So we'll ask them, you know, we want to involve them, like what works at home, what triggers the overwhelm, just building up a picture of their child. And honestly, phone calls are often better than long emails. So I'll send an email to them, or we use updates on various different platforms, whatever you may use, Tutor Crunch, Tutorbird, your own platforms, whatever, to leave lesson reports. But also just a little update to say at the end of term, it's not going to be possible every week, but at the end of term to say, like, they've done really well, this progress has been great, involve them in their child learning and ask how their child is finding things. If their child maybe isn't going to communicate to you, or just say, everything's fine, everything's great, no issues here, just be like, oh, to mum, dad, Joe has said everything's fine, just wanted to check learning's been okay, if there's anything that's popped up. And the family might say, yeah, everything's great, or they may say, no, he's really finding his times tables hard or algebra tricky, whatever it is. So yeah, I'd say sometimes trust is built just simply because someone's finally listening and genuinely caring. So we want to be those people with SEN families especially. Now, with safeguarding, and obviously we all know safeguarding is super duper important. Safety first, always. The sense of, for us, safety being mental safety for a child to learn and feel comfortable. So just as an important thing to mention to everybody, staying up to date with DBS and safeguarding training. Now we obviously have Holly at the TTA, which she's just amazing. But please always stay up to date with your safeguarding training. It's really useful. I did a course recently with Brockenhurst College, Brockenhurst College for SEN and Chichester College for Mental Health. It's just great staying up to date, having little check-ins like this to think, oh yeah, these are little tools I can use. But I do recommend just annual updates. So for SEND works, the changes, or the understanding, I should say, is there's so much more about SEN learners, even on social media, like people are having much more understanding. So if you're doing one-to-one work, especially, this is super duper important, just because each child is different. But I would just say professionalism is also about modeling calm, respectful boundaries. So with the parents, you'll gauge it. I know you're all very good at this, but you'll gauge where the line is with what we discuss. Some families are really open and happy to discuss most things. Some are a little bit more reserved and cautious. So just being aware, because if your parents, children notice everything. So children will pick up as well how we're responding and acting with their family. So we all just want to be respectful and fit in with their family structure, their model. So yeah, safeguarding is just a useful thing to do, and be able to have our DBS checks every year. Now, you probably already have this in your toolbox, but in your teaching toolbox, I would just go to resources. Now, my ones personally, I love Twinkle. Having a subscription to something similar, they have like tests and other things available, is great, just to be able to adapt. Our adaptability is key, to think, okay, our SEN learner, we may have been on a flow of English language, or may have been looking, if they're older, looking at Macbeth and thinking, we're going in with this plan. They may suddenly pivot you to say, I really struggled with something completely different. So having something there, whether you're online that you can download, or if you have your laptops with you in person, where you can grab something else there. We just want to adapt. We want to be adaptable. Seneca is great. I normally use Seneca for just setting assignments if they're happy to do online assignments. I wouldn't use it all the time for a lesson, but it's just great if you haven't checked out Seneca. That's just useful for homeworks. Blockets and Kahoots. I literally cannot tell you how overjoyed I am when a student loves to play Blocket against me, or I have a competitive child who has SEN. Blockets are great for SEN learners because you're still learning, but in game modes, especially for our autistic, selective mute or ADHD learners, where their brains need or are very good at gameplay, so are very, very good and astute to gameplay learning. These Blockets are wonderful because then by answering questions correctly, they get reward serotonin bursts in their brain, so then they feel extra motivation. And then a little reflection time. Obviously, you can't play games the whole time. A little reflection time. Just out of curiosity, has anyone played a Blocket or a Kahoot before? Any of you going to say no? Yeah, okay, good. I was going to say, if we say no, we're going to have a whole training session on Blocket. Brilliant.
Well, I think David O'Keefe's session on engaging groups, he did a Blocket with us. I'm sure that was the one, and it was just amazing. So I'll pop the link to his session in here as well, and then people can go and watch it afterwards.
Oh yes, please do. So Blockets, if I could be an advocate for Blocket, I would. I'd like wear their banner all the time. Just great. And James was saying in the classroom he was a teacher. Absolutely, when you're a teacher, great. You can do it one-to-one as well. You can play against each other. I only tutor one-to-one, but also in group sessions. As well, so with Daniels as well. It's just great. I think having, do you let them win? Now, this is a very good question. I try to, and then it might be that in one of them with the treasure chest, that suddenly you get like a triple gold and you can't do anything about it, and then your student gets like a minus 50% and you're suddenly stressing out because there's like a minute to go. That's okay, that happens because you can't control that. But yes, you try to let them win. Lots of, oh my word, that's incredible, you're just amazing. Afterwards, if ever you have a particularly competitive one, some of our SEN learners, depending on where they are on the spectrum, are very highly competitive, and winning is a really important thing. Some of them, they are used to maybe siblings, and winning is something that they understand, the give and take. So then sometimes you can say, oh, you're gonna have to beat me next time, or oh, if you practice your homework this week, I know that you'll beat me next time. So yes, I think having these different styles of learning are great. For neurotypical learners, it may not be as important for them, because for them they can take in the information in a way that will stay from making flashcards or from doing things physically. But our SEN learners, not just because it's fun, but because it actually engages parts of their brain that connects to their long-term memory, because they're doing it in a gameplay way, is really useful. And then, yeah, a reflection time, similar thing to access the other part of your brain and your prefrontal cortex. Reflecting after each lesson is really useful for the children to take away points, to take away what worked well, to say, oh, actually, I feel really good about this. I really understand this topic. Or I'm still feeling a little, I'm not sure. And building up that trust for them to say, I'm not sure, is lovely. So the next time we think, okay, we're going to still stay on this topic. We're going to develop this a little bit more. Yeah, and I put here, share ideas with other tutors. I love hearing from you guys, like hearing from what we're saying here. Danny saying earlier about inclusion and understanding a bit more is really useful. It's useful for all of us as tutors to think and share and, yeah, just collaborate. So mainly when I put here staying curious, curiosity matters more than perfection. I would much rather my child I'm teaching ask a million questions before they get to the point than just get it straight away, because then they're tying it all up in their brain. When they're curious and asking questions, it's consolidating what they are learning. So that's really useful. And then, I've gone too far. These are just some CPD courses I thought I'd just pop in to say that I really enjoyed doing and I try to do annually. You can take them online, most of them, and they're free. So which one did we pay for? No, all of them on Skills Network and Open Learn. Most of them are free to do. Some of them with Open University, I don't think I've put an Open University one there, are paid, but all of these are free courses. And they're just great because you get a qualification from it, and I will just do it annually. It's fantastic to go through, and on particular subjects. We wouldn't have enough time in an hour to go through all of the areas of an autistic brain, all of the areas of a dyslexic brain, but spending time to do that is really useful. So yeah, I think one of the best things we can do is keep learning. Has anyone ever done a course on SEN in particular yet? Or I know we're joining our lovely session here, but has anyone ever done like a level 2 on anything yet? Well, I would very much encourage all of you to do a level 2 on just one thing that stands out, or say you're teaching lots of children that are suffering with their mental health. Yeah, perfect. Oh yes, that is all of these are little great points as well. I think these are, yeah, lovely. Thank you so much, everyone. And now, as a little pause and reflect time, because I feel like I've been talking at you for so long, I just thought it'd be nice to just think about one student you have right now, just one, and the student who stays with you, the student you worry about or is in your brain all the time. I hope they are doing okay. I hope that makes sense. Just one. And I always just think, okay, what is the challenge? So just to think about that child, what is the challenge? And then to think, okay, what might be underneath that challenge? And then changing that. So this is where the magic happens, I feel, because behavior is communication. I was thinking about one particular boy who, when I teach, he always turns up like, oh, hi, I don't want to be here, like that kind of situation. He's just feels like he's been made to do it, and that can sometimes be a little bit of a challenge. But then I can understand underneath that we do English literature, which is his least favorite thing in the world. He finds it really tricky. He doesn't want to be here because it's hard, because he feels that it's going to be a hard hour. So I'll reframe it and I will say, okay, why are we feeling like this is tricky? What is the one we want to overcome? We just choose one thing and we draw a comic strip. So we're doing Macbeth. We draw a little comic strip of what we know. We fill in the gaps. We make it fun. Afterwards, every single time, I know that this is a really, really useful thing. So often it's not why not or why won't they? It's what are they finding hard? So we just want to reframe the challenge all the time. We take that one child that's in your brain and just reframe the challenge. And like Sam's just put on the chat, there's lots of other CPD things on TTA. So if you are curious for other things, or I can run some courses as well, maybe on one particular one, we can go through a little bit more. Then, this is just, we don't need to read it all. I just put it down here that this was a different one, that for him, as just a bit so you know more about him. His anxiety meant he is educated other than at school. So I see him daytime sessions. So his anxiety was just so much for him. And then especially around maths, his father's a mathematician, and he would always say to me that he's not like his dad. But at first, even just looking at one page was a bit overwhelming. So we made it just really fun. We used loads of visuals, a little bit more about him as well with his SEN. It isn't just his anxiety and his mental health. He's on the autism spectrum. But we just took everything down and we just made everything really visual. Very predictable. So he needs predictable routines. He knows that I am going to be there at 9 a.m. Absolutely, I will be there at 9 a.m. And little check-ins. I'll check in the week just to make sure he's doing okay. He really appreciates that. He needs that reassurance and lots of encouragement. Now, over time, he's not just engaged more calmly, but he previously wouldn't even ask questions. He now just asks me questions all the time. Why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? Why do we do this? Okay, I understand it. That's taken a long time, but it definitely works. So persistent pays off. Just building up that trust with our SEN learners. It takes time. It's not going to happen in a week, not even a month. But that's why it matters, because I've been here. Progress is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like a child staying in the room, trying again, or smiling at the end of the lesson. And that's that. That's like their nice little thing that they can feel. I would love, if you're able to, if you have a piece of paper or anywhere or in your brain, to write down 3 steps. Now, as I said, underneath, write down 3 small, realistic steps you can take with that student that you've been thinking about. So with the student that we were just talking about, with the challenge, what we're thinking, so on. Not huge changes, just tiny practical shifts. Maybe starting each session with one confident win that they have achieved, or breaking something down into smaller chunks. Small changes create trust, and trust is what creates progress. So just small realistic steps for like 2-3 seconds now, 2-3 minutes now, that you feel that you can take with that child. And there are some examples there, and there's no rush at all. Read it up just a tiny bit longer, but the reason why this is useful is sometimes we're just so busy, we don't sit to think, okay, how can I enhance this? We just kind of go into natural teaching mode with neurotypical, neurodiverse students. Just taking time to think, okay, this child is it seems like a battle when we're learning, or mum and dad have these expectations. To take a step back and think, okay, ignore all of that other fluff, focus on the child. We're going to do some chunking. We are going to celebrate this tiny small win. They're able to, even I have a child who's got a selective mutism, even to communicate to me that they support Tottenham Hotspur and they're not doing too well, so they communicate to me, oh, I'm really annoyed, I watched the match on the weekend. And for me, that's huge. They won't speak usually verbally. They will communicate through writing or thumbs up, thumbs down. For them to communicate that they watched something on TV was huge. So small little action plans. I then remember, okay, they support this team. I remember this to this day, that they support this team. This is the score. I'll check in. So then I can then speak to them. And they may reply verbally, they may reply non-verbally, but it's just those small realistic steps we can take when we take time to reflect on our children. I'm going all over the place. If I could leave you with anything today, it would be to focus on strengths. Main thing, focus on your child's strengths. Whatever their neurodiversity, whatever their SEN needs are, we focus on. They can see empathy in a character. That is amazing. It doesn't need to be that their spelling or punctuation isn't correct. You understand why this character is so happy. You understand why this character feels lonely. Then to build confidence a bit deliberately, because we sometimes think confidence will just happen naturally. We want to do it deliberately. We want to purposely in our brain say, I am going to find something to praise today. I am going to find something to build their confidence today. Not just, well done, you did a great lesson, bye, see you next week. Within the lesson, to be like, I need to find something to praise. I want to say something great. Absolutely, Anna. Kindness underpins everything. absolutely. Being kind is so useful, as our next point says. So we adapt that with kindness. Communicate really clearly with families. This doesn't mean to ignore any weaknesses. So that's really important. We don't want to just say, everything's great, everything's wonderful. There will be lots of weaknesses there, but we say it kindly with families. We don't just highlight the weaknesses, we highlight the strengths and then explain to them what we're doing to build up with those weaknesses being carried as well. But we highlight the strengths and we subtly build on the weaknesses so that they just more motivated. And we keep learning, just as tutors, as you're doing here, we just keep learning more and more. So we don't need to be perfect. We are human beings, we literally can't be perfect, but we can strive to help our children learn in the perfect way for them. So often the biggest difference just comes from us noticing, us being observant, being flexible and genuinely being on the child's side. So I feel like I have been speaking loads about our SEN students. So I'd love to just have any questions or anything that has popped up. I know we've had a few already, but having time now, the last 10-15 minutes, kind of just to focus on what you guys have been thinking about, your thoughts, any questions, or maybe just have a discussion all together. Does anyone feel brave to ask or say anything about SEN?
Can I say something, Melanie? Ware?
Yes, of course. Hello. Hi, Melanie.
Right. Hello. What it is, I'm starting with a new student about the 11th of May. It's a little bit scary, not just basically because there's been a lot of disengagement with school, which is for whatever reason, the neurodivergent, which is perfectly fine. But I just want to know, how can I go in that first time and make the best impression? I really love building relationships with learners. I'm not one to jump in the learning, but I know that I'll be probably the first person that they come to after the schools. Basically, not been in school for quite a few years, so I've got to get this right. I'm not right perfect, but I really want to make a good impression, and that's me. I'm ADHD as well, so I talk so much.
No, I feel completely the same as you. The first impressions are so important. Yeah. So what I would do with when you're going in, because it is a big thing, like it is a big thing for them and to know you. So building up trust first, absolutely asking them about themselves. And if they are neurodiverse and aren't willing to talk, bringing in other things for them to communicate with. So I sometimes bring in pens and papers and we'll have an outline of a boy or a girl, depending on their gender, and ask them to write things around about themselves. So then you can learn more about them and show you genuinely care. Just being prepared, so having things like fidget stress balls if he's ready. You don't need to even say you have them, you can just leave them on the table when you need them.
I'll probably use them myself.
Yeah, exactly. You could have them as well whilst your heart rate is rushing. Just being, when I say super duper prepared.
Yeah, thank you. That's fantastic.
Does that make sense? Or
100%.
Okay, cool.
Lots of sense. Thank you.
That's okay. And James, I saw your question. That's always such a difficult thing. Any negative terminology that they're using around themselves. So usually you hear, I'm not good enough, or they will say, I'm stupid, I'm rubbish. If they make even the smallest mistake. With positive self-talk, so with mental health, the best thing to do is whatever it is the mistake. So it might be in science, it might be, say you're doing ions or you're doing physics, chemistry, whatever, or maths, is they've made a mistake in one area, and then to just almost flip it and say, however, we're going to just do one or two things here. I want you to draw out this, or like, so you're doing Hooke's Law or you're doing something else, to then say, oh, you're great at this. This is wonderful. And almost get them to say out loud, or encourage them to be like, so do we feel we got that one right? And they've obviously got the question right. So for them verbally to say, yeah, I got that right. I've done that, to draw that away. So then they've at least once said, I've done something right, or I've done this correctly. And if they do still say but, or but I still got that wrong, or I'm still so silly for getting something wrong, be completely vulnerable. Just say, you know what, we got something wrong, or be like, I made a mistake the other day, that's okay, we'll go back and try again, rather than just focusing on them and this spotlight on them and their mistake. Lots of not deferring it, but lots of redirecting the light to something shining beautiful rather than focus on this tiny, tiny, small little negative thing. Does that make sense or not really?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That
So
makes-
you're
Mm.
reshifting the spotlight onto the good things instead of the bad things.
Yeah, and getting them, what I regularly try to do is get them to say, I did that right. Or even if they're reluctant to say, if you say,
I don't know how I could get them to say I did that right. I mean, I've got them to say out loud for me that I am capable of maths and I can do this if I take my time, and I can get them to repeat that after me. But I don't know how to get them to have that spark of saying, "Oh, yeah, I did that right."
do you teach online or in person?
Online.
Online. So, and you use like a whiteboard or a doodle?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Even putting up a question that's really that you know that they'll get, that they'll get it. Quite often what I'll do is I will write a little question after. So you've obviously done the question correctly. I'll put up in writing, did we get that right? And they've like a tick or a cross box, and they'll do like a tick. So I'll be like, so did you get that right? And they'll be like, yeah. And they'll be like, so can you just say you've done this amazingly, you've done this right? And they'll be like, they might think it's a bit lame, but they'll be like, yeah, I did it right. And then they'll be more enthusiastic. So almost coercion sounds the wrong word, but coercing them to say, yes, I've done something correct. I have done it right. It is possible, but maybe like, yeah, build it up. If that makes sense.
That's a good practical tip.
Is that okay? Is that something we can implement? If you do have any questions, genuinely, please just drop me a message. I love to share different things that helps with my SEN learners. Danny, oh, I'm so sorry, Anna, you've had your hand up for ages. We'll come to Anna and then Danny, I'll come to you. Anna, what was your question?
Sorry, couldn't hear me. First of all, Poppy, brilliant presentation, really valuable content. Thanks. For all tutors, and I've loved the style of your presentation. Lots of nuggets and really clear. So well done. I always start with a well done.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, mine's more of a question to the audience in the group as well, is that our numbers in our tutoring school has really moved from that 20% that you talked about to almost 45. And we don't have an internal SEN practitioner in our tutoring school, but it means that we are getting so many cases of having to learn and pivot so quickly on the job. And the tutors are coming and asking me all the time. So it would be really good to understand how much this has increases across the board. And secondly, the second observation is the schools are now referring us constantly and sending students to us, saying, yes, you know, we want you to help because we can't deal with this overload of the number of students that are coming through with neurodiversity. So I'd love to hear what other people think on my observation and what's happening with us.
I'd love to hear from everyone else. Would other people agree?
Got some nods.
Some nods, yeah. I definitely think so. The white papers have been huge in the sense that there's more awareness that SEN is a huge issue. That's like the main highlight. It's like things have just been so slow in getting EHCPs. Parents have been so frustrated. They've realised that SEN is a need. Like that is it. That's why there's so much of a budget to go into. For schools like yourselves, that there's a demand. It's tricky to gauge the ones who have severe learning needs and need the extra support, like a one-to-one, that need lots of new techniques, and those that would work better within small groups that are still. SEN is, as we say, we have different spectrums. SEN is such a delicate thing where parents will say, oh, my child needs the same as this child, and we say, well, actually they work really well with peer one-on-one, like a peer discussion, but this child really needs one-to-one focus. So I think, yes, I mainly work with SEN families, so the requests we have definitely increased. I'm not sure if it's more of like an awareness, which is great that people are aware more and more, but I think also, not that there's a reason for more SEN students, but there's obviously more of an understanding that children are struggling, are happy to voice things, which is a lovely thing. But then for you guys to take it on, are you guys struggling with the amount of SEN children?
Yes, and the fact that, like I said, it's almost doubled. So I would go along with saying to you that it was around about 25%, and now we're more closer to 45, which means upskilling is huge for us. I have to invest a lot in upskilling and new practitioners coming on board, and just also being really empathetic and training staff with parents, because it's all about that communication, that core value of kindness, keeping learning, communicating, and building confidence in the parents. And that's tough at the moment.
Yeah, I would actually say, so with the training side of things, that's the main thing. That is absolutely for corporate. So I own a small tutoring team. Getting corporates to encourage their tutors to sign up for like TTA or getting training, getting places, so then they better their, or teachers, they better their knowledge and skills. I would really recommend encouraging your team, mainly, not every single one, but trying to allow all teachers to have an understanding of SEN, but then having your main people as well. But if you speak to I'm not sure if you would like to, but if you speak to Sam or Julius about getting your teachers or tutors trained, we can do that as well. So then it's not just all on you and one Senko, it's across the board of your team.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to off the questions.
No, that's all right. No, absolutely. I think, training is probably the main thing, but it's so interesting that there is just more of an awareness, but also that there's such a demand on everybody. So you're not alone at all. I think with everybody agreeing, it's almost like all our children have different sensory, learning, educational needs. Danny put a really interesting point where that seems like a lot of demand for yourself as a tutor, but then also for her, it's not the right way for a neurodiverse brain to learn with pressure. Like with anybody, that's not going to help if someone tells you must do something repeatedly. Is it you feeling that you're having a lot of pressure on yourself?
I think it's because I'm very empathetic. I carry it around. I think about it all the time. And it becomes a sort of safeguarding issue, really, because of the pressure that she's under. And like, she's very, very smart, although she does have extra needs, and they are desperate for her to go to grammar school, like a brother who has no extra needs. And if I try and explain this to them, they don't see why her SEN should limit her, and it doesn't. It's just like, I can see the mental toll that it takes, and I carry that around with me because it's not right, and approaching that parent is very hard work.
I bet. You need to also, for your own safeguarding as well, that's a lot for us as tutors. We are here to help academically, but as tutors, we are all empaths, like we are. That's just who we are. We're in a caring job. We're in a very nurturing job. It's a very giving of our time and energy. We don't want to get burnt out, because then we can't help anybody. That's not what we want to do. We want to help people. B, I'm not going to go through like a whole list. B, for her as a child and for parent expectations, parents, we want to encourage them. We can never tell them that they're parents, that's a parent, but we want to encourage them of their child's learning needs. And if they are maybe a little bit more highly strung parents, to almost go in with like an air of professionalism to say, look, as a professional, I have noticed within your own daughter, her learning style, this pressure isn't helping her academically. Or even to say with the 11 plus, to achieve a place is great, but then to stay at the school is more important, and that can't be down just to tuition. We are just there to enhance, not to completely change, like a bit like a potter's. You wouldn't go in with a really delicate piece of pottery and just start attacking it. It's just going to crumble and break. Or even if you were to stop pushing too much, it would be fine on the outside, but inside the crack already starting, and then when it is killed.
I always say it's like building a house. So the foundations are weak because the inner voice that she has is like she's not good enough. So every time you build something on top of that, it starts to wobble. And then eventually when she gets to like year 7, etc., because she's in year 4, she can't take it anymore and everything will collapse. And I try and explain that to the parents, is that what you're doing to those foundational skills of like her inner voice and how she feels about herself, because the most important thing is that mental health, right?
Yeah.
It keeps everything else stable. What you're actually doing into that foundation is you're weakening it every single time. So everything you build in and everything that we do build on top of that is really strong, but it's still
wobbly.
And that tiny bit of wind, that one person that might not know all of that background, that one teacher might say to them, you didn't try hard enough, and it falls down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can gently explain to parents that this is something that we understand and that you know. So not saying to take a huge step back, but also just as a reassurance from us all as tutors here, you're doing an incredible job, but also to have that conversation with her, with the parent, that it's needed. It's on your mind so much that you're needing guidance when maybe deep down you can't.
I've been having this conversation with her for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And it never gets better. And now as she gets closer, like I think we've been teachers in year 1, like now it gets closer to like 11 plus and things like that. It's more intense. I said to her yesterday, Monday, when do you play? I was like, I don't have time to play.
Oh, bless. Okay. So yeah, I think you probably know that a change is needed, especially if they're SEN learners. They need that time. We were saying you need play breaks in an hour learning session. You do. Our SEN learners need that just for them to even take in things in a different way. So
even our hobbies are competitive. Like she goes to drama, but it's lambda. Like it's not. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like it's not downtime.
No, bless you. Okay. We can always like speak a little bit afterwards, but definitely look after yourself too. That's like a lot to have on you. You're doing a great job. I'm just going to take Natasha's question and then we'll have to wrap it up eventually. Well, actually, I'd have to chat for days. But Natasha, what was your question?
No, I just wanted to share something. I wondered if it was appropriate for anybody here who might be interested. What I've used quite successfully was a rainbow system, but it could be similar to a traffic light system. And I found it was really good at empowering students. So they chose sort of a level or a degree of interaction using coloured cards or a coloured system. So they could, like I say, have the autonomy to decide, okay, today I'm going to operate at this level and it would be this type of question, something much more accessible, much more easily able to get a quick win. Or they could go, you know what, today I'm feeling strong, I'm going to go hard, and they would have a much more in-depth or involved way of questioning. And I just found that really successful at building a rapport, empowering the students so they had confidence and then could use it. And I think it's something could easily be done at school as well. We could put coloured card systems on desks, but anyway, that's my ideological brain.
No, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And no worries, James, I'll see you later. Thank you so much. I'm sure if everyone raises their hands, do we feel like that's a useful traffic light system to implement? Yeah, lots of thumbs up. Thank you so much, Natasha. Oh, Jennifer, yes. Oh, that's hand. Don't worry, I do the same with my emojis. Do we have any last burning questions I think we want to say? No, all good? Well, thank you so much for joining me on my SEN little discussion, and thank you so much for all of your tips. It's so useful for even me as a tutor, having Natasha's feedback, having Danielle's experience. No, thank you guys so much. If you do have any questions or anything you want to ask, please do drop me or Sam or anyone at TTA an email or a message. But lovely to see new faces and to meet you guys, and yeah, we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, everyone. I will email you all shortly with your link to your certificate as well. But have a great day. Thanks. Thank you, Poppy, as well.
No worries. Bye, guys.